think I'll go ahead and have the slides up
Okay.
to make sure it works. Okay.
Looks good.
Sweet. Okay.
All right, so it's noon time. We'll go ahead and get started while people are trickling in. So, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Jesus Salas. I'm the Financial Empowerment Center Program Manager at the International Rescue Committee here in Sacramento. Our Financial Empowerment Center offers free financial coaching in Sacramento County, and we also offer the services of which we'll be talking to you about today, which would be the Student Loan Empowerment Program. It's funded by the state of California, and we serve the entire state, not just the Sacramento area. So student loans and the educational system, as we know, is a topic of many discussions. It's something that affects all of us. Navigating student loan payments and forgiveness programs can be very confusing. So through free education like this workshop and one-on-one counseling, we hope to um, make managing your student loans a little bit easier. So before we begin, I did want to extend our gratitude to our hosts, the Greater Sacramento Urban League, the Los Angeles Urban League, and the Urban League of San Diego County. Your support is invaluable to us. Without your support, we wouldn't be able to reach the number of people we are currently serving. So thank you. And with that said, I will pass it on to Savannah Hastings, our student loan specialist, who will take it from here. Go ahead, Savannah.
All right. Thank you, Jesus. So, hi, everyone. Yeah, my name is Savannah Hastings. I'm a student loan specialist out of the IRC in Sacramento. I've received training from the National Consumer Law Center and the Department of Financial Protection and Innovation. So far, I've held over 100 student loan counseling sessions, and I'm still learning something new every day. So if I don't have the answer to your question, I will try to find it for you. So as Jesus said, I'm doing this program on behalf of the Student Loan Empowerment Network, which again is a California grant program happening throughout California. So yeah, if you know anyone that might benefit from these services, as long as they live in California, they can receive this program. And our mission is to help California student loan borrowers navigate the complex student loan repayment system and build a prosperous future. So what that might look like if you're interested in working with me as a student loan empowerment program coach. Finding the program is, of course, the first step. Then we can do a 30-minute phone call. We'll put a booking link in the chat and make sure that's shared with you all. Then I'll be doing some research between that phone call. We can sit down and do a longer video call and then following up from there. So it's really an ongoing program. It might not be an over and shut situation. We're really here to support you throughout your student loan journey. So first thing I like to kind of put it into perspective for everyone is just kind of think about how many Americans might have student loan debt. I'm sure we all know somebody, ourselves as well, that is experiencing this issue. Just to give you an idea of the scope of this problem, there's actually 45 million Americans that have student loan debt, owing more than $1.7 trillion. So this is a huge issue impacting a lot of different people. Speaking of the people that it's impacting, I just want to take a moment to touch on the outsized impact of student loan debt. So there's a disproportionate debt burden that is held by women, low-income borrowers, and borrowers of color. So 90% of Black students take out loans compared to 66% of white students. Black and African-American college graduates owe an average of $25,000 more in student loan debt than white college graduates. A borrower in a 75% minority neighborhood is 5 times more likely to fall behind on their student loan payments. And Black women specifically have the highest rates of default and hold a disproportionate amount of student loan debt. These negative impacts, in turn, contribute to long-term disparities and further intensify the racial wealth gap. So that's why we're here to really empower student loan borrowers and help with this issue. So student loans can really feel scary and overwhelming, but being informed and having this knowledge is really the first step in dealing with that problem. So probably not going to be able to answer everyone's question in one presentation. We've got a lot of slides, so I'm going to talk pretty quickly. At the end, there will be that booking link. Would love to sit down with you and do that one-on-one consultation and really get in depth with your specific student loan situation. So what we're going to be discussing today is really some high-level stuff like how to know your loans, how to get more information about your specific situation. We'll talk about your different repayment options, the safety nets that are in place with student loans, types of loan forgiveness, and then some more recent updates. And then if anyone has some questions at the end, I can touch on those as well. So first things first, how do we know about our loans? What are our student loans? What do they look like? So you might not have thought about when you first received these loans in a while, but I'm just going to talk about the life cycle of a student loan. So of course, first you apply to get these loans through FAFSA. The loans are dispersed while you're in school, or if you decide to go back to school, no payments are due. You also can't consolidate your loans. You can't apply for repayment plans, and interest may accrue depending on the loan type. After you finish that program, whether you withdraw, you drop below enrollment, or you graduate and complete that program, you're going to enter your grace period. So you get about 6 months of time after you finish that program that no payments are due. This is when you really want to start strategizing and thinking about how you're going to handle your repayment. Next phase is that repayment. You're automatically enrolled in what's called the standard repayment plan, which I'll touch on a little bit more later. And then eventually you either pay off those loans or get them canceled. There's no statute of limitations. They can continue to collect on these loans as long as you have them. So this might look a little bit overwhelming, but we just need to acknowledge that there's different loan types. So mostly today we're going to be focusing on federal loans. I'll briefly touch on private loans in the next slide, but under federal loans umbrella, we've got our direct loans, our Perkins loans, and our FFEL loans. The Perkins and the FFEL loans are some older loan types. So for example, Perkins loans have stopped being distributed since 2017, FFEL loans since 2010. But if you went to school prior to those years, you might see these loan types there. And then under direct loans, which is our most common loan type, we've got things like subsidized, unsubsidized, graduate loans, parent loans, consolidation loans. The main difference is with subsidized, those are going to have been based on financial need. Interest won't accrue if you're under a deferment or a grace period. Unsubsidized loans, those are the ones that are going to accrue the most interest. And then again, just to briefly touch on private loans, private student loans are handled very differently than our federal loans. They don't have the same flexible repayment plans. They don't have loan cancellation or other borrower protections built in. And most of the time, you're not going to want to refinance your federal loans into a private loan because, again, they don't have those built-in protections and loan forgiveness options. So before we get a little bit more specific about your loans, we want to talk about who's who in the loan world. So big category we've got are the loan holders. If you have any loans issued after 2010, the holder of these loans is the Department of Education. If you have loans from before 2010, like those FFEL loans that we talked about, they may be held by a different entity like a guarantee agency or a commercial lender. So just keep that in mind of your timeline. And then loan servicers, you're probably more familiar with that term. So this is an outside company that is hired by the Department of Education. They handle the billing, repayment, forgiveness. And these are just some common servicers that you might know of. Your loans may also get switched between servicers. So keep an eye out, make sure you know your most up-to-date servicer. You're probably wondering, how do I know who my most up-to-date servicer is? Well, our first stop for getting information about your loans and your servicer is studentaid.gov. If you don't remember anything else from today, remember this website, try to log in. This is going to be your first stop shop for getting that information. This website is managed by the federal government. Even if your loans are getting switched between servicers, you're still going to have your studentaid.gov account always in the same place. This is another good way to figure out if you're not sure if you have private loans or federal loans. When you log into this account, all the loans that you're seeing are going to be your federal loans. If there's a loan that you think you have and you're not seeing it in this account, it's probably going to be a private loan. So just keep that in mind. So let's say we log in. This is the first page that you're going to see. This is called the dashboard. So first thing you want to make sure, number one, is that you are in your own account. So it should say your name. This is from my account actually, so you can see it says Savannah. Top right corner, that's also where the main menu lives as well. Number 2, you can also see what upcoming payments you might have. Servicers are named there. Due dates are there. You may have multiple servicers depending on if you went to school, left and came back, different loans. So just want to check there. And then number 3, view details. So if we click on view details, we're going to get to this next screen. And then you keep scrolling down, you're going to see this blue wheel. This is going to be your total loan information. It's got your principal as well as your interest. And if you keep scrolling, that's where you can find your different loan types. So for example, we've got Perkins loans, subsidized loans, unsubsidized loans. This is just an overview of where you can find that information for yourself. Really, my main role is, again, empowering you to know your own loans to be able to help figure out your situation. Next, if we keep scrolling down, that's where we get to the loan breakdown. So each servicer will have its own section. You can see here we've got Mohila. And then if we click on view loans, this is where we can find out more specifics about each loan. So it'll say the school, when you received the loan status, the repayment plan. This is hugely important to find out what repayment plan you are on, especially as student loan repayments are resuming. You'll also get your interest rate and your total balance. So that's just kind of an overview of the information that you can find on studentaid.gov. That is your first step of where to get that information. So next, we're briefly going to talk about repayment options. So once you know what loans you have, now we can start thinking about how we might be repaying those loans. So similar graphic we've got here, umbrella term, we've got repayment plans, and we've kind of got a couple different buckets. So our first is what's called the fixed plans. These tend to be more expensive, and these are based on the loan balance itself. They don't take into account income or family size or anything like that. In the middle here, we've got our standard plan. So if you don't apply for any other type of plan when you graduate, you're automatically going to be enrolled into the standard plan. They take your loan balance, divide it by 120 payments or 10 years, and that's how they'll come up with your monthly payment. So if you have a pretty high loan balance, you're going to have a pretty high monthly payment on that plan. Now, what we want to start thinking about is what are called the income-driven repayment plans, or IDR plans. Again, this is an umbrella term, and there's 4 plans that fit under that category. So we'll talk about those on the next slide. So again, income-driven repayment plans is that larger term. All direct loans are eligible for these income-driven plans. If you have other loans like the PLUS loans or some of the other older loans, Perkins loans, FEL loans, you're going to need to consolidate those loans before you can apply for the income-driven repayment plans. How consolidation works is you're basically combining those loans together into one new, what's called direct consolidation loan. There's some pluses and minuses to consolidating. For example, the interest rate will be a weighted average of the interest rates of the loans being consolidated. So you want to really make sure that that you need to do this consolidation before you go through with that. With income-driven repayment plans, payments are based on income, family size, tax filing status, and the specific plan. So there's a lot that goes into each one. Your payments could, though, be as low as $0 a month. So these are almost always going to be a better option for most borrowers. You do have to recertify these plans annually. So as your income changes, your payment may change as well. And just a big asterisk, as with most things right now with student loans, they can take a very long time to process that application. So just keep that in the back of your mind. This table actually compares the 4 different income-driven plans. So maybe take a picture of this. We'll also send out the slides, so you'll have this for your own reference. The 4 plans that we're talking about under income-driven repayment plans are going to be the SAVE plan, the PAYE plan or pay-as-you-earn plan, the IBR, which is income-based repayment, and the ICR, which is income contingent repayment. So just to kind of run through these, we've got the SAVE plan. This plan offers a lot of people $0 a month payments, low monthly payments, less time until your loans are forgiven. However, as we'll touch on at the end of this presentation, this plan is actually stuck in a court litigation. So they're not currently accepting new applicants, which I'll go over at the end. Then we've got the pay-as-you-earn plan. This one is capped at 10% of your discretionary income. The loans are supposed to be forgiven after 20 years, and this plan actually just reopened applications. So we'll look at that as well. Then we've got our income-based repayment. This will never be higher than the standard repayment plan. This is a pretty good option for a lot of borrowers. Parent Plus loans, however, are not eligible for that plan. Parent Plus loans are only eligible for what's called the ICR, or income contingent repayment plan. This is the most expensive of all 4 plans. So pretty much only if you're a Parent Plus borrower, that's really the only time that you would want to be on that plan. So take a look at the different options here. Just know that there are options out there. You're not just stuck with that standard plan. So try to remember that you've got those choices. So next, we'll just go into some safety nets. So another big thing that we are all about with the Student Loan Empowerment Network is preventing borrowers from going into default. So we just want you to know that there are options. You're not just stuck if you can't afford those payments. There are things that you can do to prevent default. So some of those contingency plans, as we'll call them, we've got deferment and we've got forbearance, which are basically just 2 different types of payment pauses on student loans. Deferment, interest will accrue on some of your loans. It won't accrue on others. Forbearance, interest will continue to accrue on all loan types. So that's what you want to keep in the back of your mind. But if you are in a situation, you can pause those payments. So some reasons for pausing student loan payments might include economic hardship, if you're serving in the military, if you're undergoing cancer treatment, and more. There's a whole list of different reasons that you could apply for these payment pauses. So keep in mind there's eligibility requirements for the different types, and you'll have to submit that documentation to qualify for these payment pauses. Typically, you're going to apply for these with your servicer, and they grant them usually on like a 2-month basis, and you can reapply to continue, extend that forbearance or that deferment. But again, we want to just keep in mind, these are backup plans. So this is not plan A, this is like plan B, C, D. In most cases, again, interest will accrue, which means your balance is going to increase. You'll pay more over the life of that loan, and it may not count towards your forgiveness requirements. So we'll touch on loan forgiveness a little bit later, but usually periods spent in deferment or forbearance don't give you any of that credit. So since these are the plans we want to keep in mind, right? We don't want to end up in default. We can enter deferment or forbearance if we need to. Just to review what that means if a loan goes into default. So let's say you miss your first loan payment. Loan payments have begun to resume. We were on a COVID payment pause, and that has since ended. So you want to really make sure that you're checking in on those loans, making sure you're not missing those payments. So when you miss that first loan payment, your loans are what we call delinquent. They go into delinquency. If you continue to miss those loan payments for 90 days and you go 90 days unpaid, that's when your servicer will report that status to the credit bureaus. For private loans, they can even default after just 90 days. So that's another downside of the private loans. If they go 270 days unpaid, that's when most federal loans enter the default status, which can have a lot of downsides, which we'll cover on the next slide, but there are ways out of default. You can enter loan rehabilitation or loan consolidation. If you're in this situation, please reach out to us. There are things that we can do, not to scare you, but when you enter default, what happens is the entire unpaid balance of your loan and any interest you owe becomes immediately due. So they expedite that process and they want the whole loan right away. You can't enter deferment or forbearance once you're in default. You can't select an IDR plan. You're just kind of stuck. Your wages may be garnished, your tax refund may be seized, and there's more things that they can do as well. They can continue to collect on this. Again, no statute on the collection. So you really want to take steps to avoid default. We don't want to get into that situation. But again, if you are, reach out to us. There are things that we can do to help you. And then just quickly, some red flags that we want to cover. If any of these are ringing a bell to you, please reach out to us. So whether your school closed soon after you graduated or while you were attending, If you feel that your school misled you, maybe telling you that you were going to get a certain salary when you graduated, or that you would 100% get some sort of job, and you didn't get that, please let us know. If you attended a for-profit institution, that's a huge one as well. And then if you have paid someone for student loan assisting. So the services that we're providing are meant to be free to borrowers. So if you have been paying someone frequently, it's like a monthly subscription type of thing, please reach out to us and we will help you deal with that. Okay, so quickly, on a more positive note, we're going to talk about loan forgiveness. So currently, there are really two major types of loan forgiveness that you can apply for. If you've heard, other types of sweeping loan forgiveness are kind of in a preliminary stage. Those haven't really been actualized yet. So these are the two that we really know are options for borrowers right now. So first up, we've got total and permanent disability discharge. So they define a total and permanent disability as a physical or mental condition that prevents someone from working or engaging in substantial gainful activity. So there's 3 different ways that you can apply for this discharge, through the U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs, through the Social Security Administration, and then one of the most common ones is through a medical professional. So if you feel that you might fit into that category, you can get a document signed by your medical professional, and you can receive that disability discharge. So here is how you can apply for that. Frequently, this discharge is actually granted automatically through the Veteran Affairs Department or through the Social Security Administration. But if you think you might qualify and you didn't get that automatic discharge, you can complete a TPD discharge application. You attach that supporting documentation of your eligibility. So that's usually going to be from that medical professional. And then you send your application and documentation to Nelnet, who is the TPD discharge servicer. So this is something that you think you might qualify for. We can help you submit that documentation and get that discharge. And then the other large type of forgiveness that we see is called Public Service Loan Forgiveness, or PSLF. How the PSLF program works is they'll forgive the remaining balance on your direct loans after you've made the equivalent of 120 qualifying monthly payments, which is about 10 years typically, if you're doing them consecutively, under an accepted repayment plan. So that's going to be like those IDR plans, while you've been working for full-time for an eligible employer, which we'll get into a little bit. So how you can qualify for this, the eligible employer means a U.S. federal, state, local, tribal government, or a qualifying nonprofit organization. That's who the employers count as. And qualifying employment for PSLF isn't about the job that you do. It's about the employer, the agency that you work for, fitting under one of those categories. You must work full-time for that agency while you're making those payments, which they categorize as at least 30 hours. PSLF applies for only direct loans. So if you have those Perkins or those FEL loans, you'll need to consolidate before you can get PSLF. And then you're typically going to want to repay your loans under an income-driven repayment plan, those IDR plans. You can pay them under the standard plan. However, they don't really work together very well because, again, the standard repayment plan is takes your loan balance, divides it by 10 years. The PSLF is also 10 years. So hypothetically, if you did it under the standard plan, you wouldn't have anything left to be forgiven after those 120 payments. So just something to keep in mind. And then you want to still be working for that qualifying employer at the time that you submit your form for forgiveness. So if you hit those 10 years and then you're like, oh, I want to switch into the private sector, make sure that you submit for forgiveness before making that career change. That way you get that qualifying employment counted towards your PSLF. Okay, let's see now. I think we're going to go ahead and do a little true or false. So I think we've got some polls that are going to be launched out to you. Our first true or false question, just to review, is the first place to go to get information about your student loans is studentaid.gov. So let's see if we're getting those polls sent out. Oh, perfect. So everyone go ahead and submit what you think there. And I think, let me see. Okay. All right, now we're going to go ahead and review. So the answer for the first one is going to be true. Studentaid.gov is that one-stop shop. If you're going to sit down and do a one-on-one counseling session with me, that's going to be the first thing that we do together is make sure that you're getting logged in. If you try to go on there and it's not saying that you have an account, you really want to reach out to the federal Department of Education and make sure that you are able to get into that account. If you have Parent Plus loans that you've taken out for your child, it's going to be your own account. It's not going to be under your child's account. So just keep that in mind as well. Okay, number 2, you should pay someone to help get your loans forgiven. Go ahead and answer that one. What do you think, true or false? Paying someone. Okay, hopefully this one was obvious for you all. So false, you don't want to pay someone to help with your student loan payments. We're seeing a huge uptick in student loan related scams that are charging people for services that should be free, or they're spreading misinformation saying that they'll be able to expedite your forgiveness if you pay them a certain amount. Please do not fall for those scams. Okay, number 3. Refinancing federal loans into a private loan will save you money and be better for you overall. What do you all think? True or false? I know we went over private loans pretty quickly, so hopefully this sticks out in your mind. Give you a couple seconds here. Okay, let's see. So false. 99% of the time, it's going to be false at least. So refinancing your federal loans into a private loan is going to be pretty risky. Although you may be able to get a better interest rate, that's typically how they draw you in, is advertising these low interest rates. You will lose a lot of benefits by refinancing into a private loan. So you'll lose that eligibility for public service loan forgiveness. You'll lose eligibility for other loan cancellation programs, potential future loan cancellation programs. You'll lose access to those affordable monthly payments based on your current income, and you'll lose access to that help if you struggle making payments in the future. So you really want to be careful before you decide to refinance into a private loan. Okay, our last question. If you can't afford your loan payments, there is nothing you can do about it. What do you think? True or false? Hope that this one as well is going to be pretty obvious to you all. So we'll quickly see what we see. Okay, so if you can't afford your loan payments, there's nothing you can do about it. That's going to be false, right? So you've got options. You can apply for those income-driven plans. You can request that forbearance or that deferment. You can call those loan servicers and really try to work something out for your situation. Also think about if the work that you're doing qualifies for public service loan forgiveness. That's a huge option as well. So just know that there are options out there, and that's what we're here to help you find for your situation. Okay, so now we're going to go into some of the latest updates in the student loan world. Again, this information is very timely, time sensitive, so it's only really up to date as of, I put yesterday's date just to be safe in case something comes out later today. I don't have a crystal ball though, so I don't know what may end up changing. This is what we know is happening and taking place as of right now. So the first thing that is ongoing, that is taking place, is called the IDR account adjustment. So basically what happened, so the income-driven repayment plans, those IDR plans, were built to allow borrowers to make payments based on income and family size. They were supposed to have built-in loan forgiveness on a scale of 20 to 25 years, 10 years even for some people. However, mismanagement has prevented many eligible borrowers from receiving that forgiveness. They're hitting the 20 to 25 year mark, and they're still having to make those payments. So to address this, the Department of Education is doing a one-time account adjustment to help borrowers qualify for forgiveness. Some people may even see automatic loan cancellations and refunds. This is still ongoing. So the end date, it was supposed to be, I think, earlier this year, maybe in fall. We are still seeing that process taking place. We're not sure when that is going to be completed, but just know that this is something that is still coming down the line. The other thing that is ongoing right now is that SAVE plan litigation. So if you are currently enrolled in the SAVE plan or you are interested in the SAVE plan, definitely want to listen up to this. So in July of this year, a stay was issued, preventing the Department of Education from operating the SAVE plan. So what does that mean? If you were already on the SAVE plan, you've probably noticed that your loans have entered what's called an administrative forbearance. You should not be making monthly payments if you're on the SAVE plan. You're also not supposed to be accruing interest at this time. You're effectively in a freeze. What that means, again, that's good, no payments, no interest. But if you are interested in receiving public service loan forgiveness, you're also not going to be getting credit towards that at this time. The other thing they're doing is they're not processing any new applicants to SAVE. You technically still can submit an application. However, you will not be enrolled into the program. You will also be put on a forbearance, basically not making any payments, not getting any of those credits either. So the whole SAVE plan is kind of at a limbo period. We're not sure when we're going to see the results of this. We're hearing spring of next year, but we're still not entirely sure on that. In the meantime, if you were interested in accruing credits for public service loan forgiveness, they have reopened applications for the income-based repayment plan and the PAYE, pay-as-you-earn plan on the Department of Education website. So if that's something you're interested in, definitely think about that, but also just know if you apply to get out of the SAVE plan, you're not going to be able to get back in for the time being. Okay. Circling back to public service loan forgiveness, we're seeing some huge delays in PSLF processing. We're seeing a lot of people that are hitting the 120 payment mark and their loans just they go into forbearance. They haven't really seen that forgiveness. If they've made over 120 payments, they haven't seen those refunds yet. So this is still a hugely ongoing process, and we don't know when that forgiveness will be processed and finalized. So basically a lot of unknowns taking place, but just know a lot of things that are ongoing that you are hoping to see the results of next year. So I know that a lot of people have anxieties with student loans right now. So this is kind of what we can maybe predict for the future. This is coming from the DFPI and NCLC based on their work during the last Trump administration. So during the last Trump administration, the Department of Education stopped processing borrower defense applications, tried to reverse borrower defense relief determinations, made it more difficult to satisfy closed school discharge and borrower defense regulations. So we may see additional operational barriers and regulatory challenges during the next administration as well. That's kind of based on their previous experience, the issues that they were seeing. However, many of the student loan borrower protections are statutory and cannot just be undone by an agency. So PSLF, total permanent disability discharge, income-based repayment, these are all things that we are expecting to be very hard to overturn and that we're hoping to see stay in place for a very long time. So I know that's not giving a lot of specific answers to some questions folks may have had. However, that's just kind of where we're at with student loans right now. So with that being said, we've got a good amount of time left. I'm going to put up this last slide. So if you are interested in following up about any of the things that we've discussed today, the first step would be to schedule a 30-minute phone call. So if you scan this QR code, I think we also have a link that may be going out in the chat. You can also send me an email. Would love to sit down with you and get into more of those specific questions that you may have. But at this time, if anyone has any other questions, I'm trying to see if you want to put them in the chat. I can try and do my best to answer any of those at this time. Let's see. I know I went through everything pretty quick, so, oh, perfect. So there is that. I think that should be in the chat. So feel free to fill out that booking request At that time, we can, get a little more in depth about your specific situation. These slides will also be getting sent out to all of you. So more information will be in there. If there's anything that I kind of breezed through that you want to look at again, please look through those. And please share this service with anyone else that may be in your circle that you think might benefit from these services. Again, open to anyone in California who has student loans. Okay. Anyone's got any questions, feel free to send those out. I'll just keep hanging out. And again, thank you to the Urban League for partnering with us to get this information out there. Again, we're really here to empower borrowers to know where they stand with their student loans, to have all the information so they can make an informed decision for their student loans, because it can be pretty overwhelming. So we're here to be that one-stop shop for you to get those student loan questions answered. So again, if you don't want to share at this time, it can be sensitive information. Please connect with us. We would love to sit down with any interested folks and talk about student loans. Okay. Just keep hanging out, see if anyone's got any other questions here. Okay. I'm not seeing any in the chat. So I'm going to assume that I answered every possible question you could ever have, which is probably not true. But again, yeah, fill out that link, sit down with us. This, I think, is being recorded. So hopefully we will also have that recording so that can be shared out as well. I think at this time we may end a little bit early. Any other going once? I hope I'm looking in the right place. I'm not seeing any. Okay. Going once, going twice. Okay. Oh, we see something. How long are typical appointments? Great question. So that initial appointment is going to be, we schedule it to be a 30-minute phone call. It doesn't always take that long. That's just kind of to get an idea of what type of help you might need. Also to get an idea if it is something that we can assist you with. We also part of the Student Loan Empowerment Network. I forgot to mention this at the beginning. Half of the agencies are actually providing free legal aid to student loan borrowers. So if in that initial phone call, I feel like you might need some legal aid, it's something beyond what I can help you with, at that point, I can go ahead and make that referral and they can help you out with the legal side of things. If based on that phone call, it's going to be a more general borrower support situation, then we'll schedule an hour-long video call. During that time, we're really going to get in depth about your specific student loans, reviewing all of your different loan types, what you might qualify for. And that does typically take that full hour. So great question. Thank you for that. We'll follow up. That sounds great. Okay, I'm going back to school to get another master's. What plan is best? I already have a master's and a bachelor's. Great question. I'm assuming you mean which repayment plan. That is going to depend on your income and your family size. So a great tool that I'll point you towards that everyone can utilize, when you get into studentaid.gov, they have something that's called the loan simulator. So you can actually go through the loan simulator, put in information about your income, about your family size, and about your different loans. And it will tell you at the end an estimate of what your monthly payment might look like based on all of that information. So I would recommend that if you are trying to figure out what repayment plan, definitely use the loan simulator. So working in nonprofit, do you have an idea on how loan forgiveness works for eligible borrowers? Yeah, so that would be, again, the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. So just to review, the PSLF it's a 10-year program. So 10 years or 120 payments, right? That's a monthly payment for 10 years. Basically how it works is it retroactively takes your loan repayment information and your employment information and it matches them up. So for every month that you made a payment on your direct student loans and were employed at either a nonprofit or a government organization, they count that towards your 120 payments. So PSLF can only count employment retroactively. So you want to do it after you've been employed somewhere for like a year, or if you've been in nonprofits for a long time, you can go back and retroactively get that employment certified. And you can do all of that through the studentaid.gov website. They actually recently updated their PSLF help tool. So it's a lot easier than it used to be. I won't say it's easy, but it's a lot more simple. Basically what you do is you submit, let's say I was employed somewhere from January of 2023 through December of 2023. I'll go in, find that employer's information, put in the dates that I was employed there. Then they're going to send that application back to your employer. So you want to provide the email address for either like a supervisor or an HR representative, someone that has access to your employment documents. They will then get sent an electronic document to sign. They'll sign that, get sent back to the federal government, and then that will update on your studentaid.gov account. You'll actually get a green progress bar, and it'll show, if that was a year of qualifying employment, I'll have 12 out of 120 payments. Eventually you hit that 120, and then you have satisfied your agreement for that loan. So they are still updating the PSLF process because it does have a bit of a delay, but it's all on your studentaid.gov account. Make 96 payments. I now have to pay off, or will I still? If you work for a nonprofit for 8 years, make 96 payments, would I now have to pay off? So you need to hit that 120. If you don't hit 120, then they're still going to expect you to pay off those loans. It's not like you can get like a portion of them forgiven. So it's about 120 payments. That's really all that they look at. So if you're that close, I would say, maybe consider staying there for a little bit longer, and try to get those last couple payments counted, because that's really the only way that you're going to see that forgiveness. So you'd need, 2 more years of payments. Hope that made sense for that one. Okay. Oh, I just found, okay. I see where these questions are coming from now. Now I understand. Thank you. Okay. Any other questions, comments, concerns? Again, scan that QR code, send me an email. I think as much as we can talk about things generally, it really is going to depend on each person's different situation. So would love to get more in depth for interested folks.
Savannah, I have a quick question because I know this is one of the things that you worked with me on. Let's say if a person has a loan with, so one of my loans is directly with one of the universities that I have, and it's a smaller loan. It's like $6,000. Do you have any tips for trying to go in and pay off that one said loan? Like, do you have like a script or an idea for how someone can go in and try to, let's say I owe 6,000, but I want to go and pay off like 4,000? Do you have any suggestions for how a person could do that?
That is a great question. So I haven't done as much work with that type of like directly working with the schools. I do have a script that comes from the Student Loan Empowerment Network that I can share with people that might be interested in making that sort of negotiation happen. That's a good question though, because the PSLF is only going to be for the direct loans that are held by the Department of Education. So you may have, some of those Perkins or those FEL loans. I'm not sure. That's a good question, Troy. If that works out for you, I'd love to hear how it goes. But that's a good question. If people have that situation, would love to sit down and talk about it. And we can, again, the good point of this program is that we are just one spoke in a network of 14 nonprofits that are providing this service. So we're able to share out these different situations that are happening and get some of that feedback. So I will reach out to the network and see if they have any suggestions on that one. Thank you. Okay. Any other, let me see, where did that go? Any other questions? I think that looks pretty good. Okay, any going once, going twice? Yeah, send me an email. Let's sit down and talk about your loans, and we can really get more in depth that way. And yeah, one more time, just thank you to the Urban League. Thank you to the IRC that I'm working on behalf of and the Student Loan Empowerment Network. If you are also a representative of another community organization and are interested in this program, let us know and we can look at doing more of these events in the future. So I think that we'll go ahead and call it a day at that. We'll send out an email that'll have these slides and some more information about doing that one-on-one counseling. But other than that, thank you for joining us. And everyone, I'm going to stop sharing that screen. There I am. Okay. Anything you want to add, Jesus? We good for the day?
Yeah, I think we can wrap things up. Thanks again, Savannah, and thanks to the Urban League for your support.
All right. Sounds good. Thank
All
you.
right. Bye, everyone.
Easy, easy, easy. Have a great one.
You too. Thanks.
All right, bye.